welcome back. Actually, you know what? Before then, man, I was watching Chris Barber's head, and I was just thinking, I was like, man, that intro song is fire.
It is
That is
fire. It
fire.
is
That is
fire.
fire. I'm built up, man. That was beautiful.
At the same time, have y'all guys heard the intro on the Power and Perspective podcast on Friday night?
No.
Bruh,
It's
I have.
deep.
It's a hit.
It's
bruh,
deep.
It's a hit.
that's a hit. That's a hit, right? So
Um,
here's what I suggest. If you're in the chat, if you're at home, if you're watching this video, tune in Wednesday and tune in Friday night, and then comment back to us and let us know which one you like better. But the song changes each week, so you got to tune in every week to watch both shows to see the songs. No, I'm just playing. But Coach, no, I'm just fooling. But
That was
gentlemen,
strong. That was
and
strong.
everybody, welcome back to another episode of Elevator Dialogue here on the Uncle Junior Network. I go by the name of Uncle Junior, and I am just one member of today's Wolf Pack. With that being said, let me introduce everybody up here on the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, the guy up here eating his nuts, Mr. Antoine Christopher, the other artist. And he is literally eating some nuts. I don't know where they came from or what type they are, but he is literally eating nuts. He eats them every week, every Wednesday night. You can tune in and you can watch Antoine eat nuts. Right next to me, ladies and gentlemen, the only coach you will ever need, ladies and gentlemen, the
Violated.
mindset coach himself, Mr. Dwayne Dwyer. Right beside him, back with us with another episode, Mr. Dustin. I'm going to leave it at that. I want to say more, but he only put Dustin, so I'm going to leave it at Dustin.
There you go.
Right below him, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Victor Viziant, Mr. Accountability, Mr. two-time best-selling author. He got the code up there. I'm sure he's gonna see it. He's gonna see it sometime the night before the show ends. Both his books right there, ladies and gentlemen. Right beside him, looking smooth, the man of many hats, Mr. Roland Walker, Mr. Poor Man's Dr. Phil, and last but not least, he is still the angry guy, Mr. Across the Table with Christopher McClellan.
You're
Gentlemen,
damn right.
how y'all doing tonight?
Fantastic.
I'm well.
Amazing.
Blessed, my man.
I've been
Amazing.
sucking the last 3 days, and I think just now I'm out of it. Like, I'm good now. I know my wife probably happy right now. So, babe, I'm good. All right. So, again, welcome everybody. Thank you to everyone who is supporting and watching the show live, and to everyone who may watch on a replay. We appreciate you for being here. Good evening to the most elevated chat on YouTube. We appreciate you, and feel free to engage with us during the show. Feel free to ask as many questions that you want. Maybe we'll get to them. Some of us panel members are veterans. Up here, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 5 of us veterans up here. So shout out to all the veterans. We understand and we salute you for all that you do. So special shout out to you. Lastly, check the description for any links to any of our social media platforms and YouTube channels. Also, while you're ready, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe if you have not, and hit the notification button so you can be notified when new videos are released. Lastly, feel free to share this video with someone who you think could benefit from it. All right. So, gentlemen, we're going to jump right into the topic tonight. Marrying and dating outside of your race or culture. And I'm going to start off with this. I would like for everybody to go around once I get done, and kind of, if you want to, remember this is, some people on here have may take a less active approach in the panel tonight. I will say that. And that's fine.
That's not what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say some people may get their feelings hurt.
Well, that may happen too.
I'm okay with that. Let the hate flow through you.
Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of go around, kind of where we are in our life right now, kind of sort of where we are, and how we came to about, maybe our thoughts on this topic in general, because what we're talking about is marrying or dating outside of our race or culture. And I want to start by saying that regardless of how you feel about it, there may be some man out there that's watching this that may be struggling with this conversation. He may want to date a certain type of person, but his family may be against it, or he may be open to it. However you feel about it, I think it's okay. So we just want to start the conversation off with just talking about kind of where we came from and what our thoughts are on the matter. So here's where I came from. First of all, well, I'll start with my story. Um, I have some Native American in my family and some black in my family. That's really all I know. Um, Based off of what I was told. I did my ancestry DNA. It omitted some things that I was taught was in my family, the Native American part. So I don't know how much I trust the ancestry DNA. Good, bad, or indifferent. Those are my thoughts on it. Um, I was raised super into church. You know, both of my parents went to church. We were raised in church, went to church all the time. I was taught to love everybody, regardless of your skin color, all of those different things. Um, Once I got married at 19, at 20, and the woman that I married was biracial. Her mother was white and her dad was black. So I married a biracial woman. And then I had three sons. My oldest son is currently married, and he's married to a Caucasian woman. So if you look at my granddaughters look like Dustin. They don't look, they don't have a lot of dark complexion in them.
Are their
They don't
beards
look
as
light
nice as
skinned.
mine?
No, they don't. No, they 6 and 1. They females. So what I'm saying
Sorry.
is, like, my granddaughters, although they have some black in them from me, my granddaughters look like they're Caucasian. If so, I'm really open to all of this. You know what I mean? I don't care who my sons marry. I don't have a preference. I think that people should marry who they want. I also don't have a problem if people decide and choose to date within their race. I don't have a problem with that either. So I was always, that's how I was brought up. That's how I was kind of sort of raised. And those are my thoughts on this particular topic. Whoever else that wants to go, feel free to go. I have talked enough.
Okay,
Nobody?
go
Oh,
ahead,
go ahead. No,
Jeff.
Dr. Phil, it's all you, man.
Oh, hold on. I got an alibi. And I am
Uh-oh.
currently married to a woman who is Native American and Mexican.
Same thing. No, let me stop. I'm just glad that Dustin
That's
on here.
another
'Cause I
show.
see Dustin like the joke too, so it ain't just gonna be me. So
Nope.
I'm cool with that. Now, as for me, I was raised where my grandfather was a professor at Morehouse. My sisters went to Central State and Wilberforce College. I have family that went to Dillard. Family went to Xavier. Family went to Livingstone. It's various HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. So growing up, it was always instilled in me that your first love is your mother. So when you go looking for someone, usually you look for someone that resembles your mother or has some similarities as your mother. So I'm a person where, for me, I always knew that I would marry a person that resembled, my mother. And my mother's a little lighter than me. And I have zero problems with anybody dating anybody, like my children. If you find you a white, green, black, whatever they are, as long as they treat you right, that's what I'm going for. Because you can find a person that looks like you, treat you like a bum. But what I do instill in my children, as well as my grandchildren, as a sense of pride in being self and their heritage, their culture. And when you find out your culture and start identifying with that, then you want somebody to identify with that with you. So you want it, because there's a lot of explaining, a lot of dialogue that has to be done with somebody outside of your culture. For that reason, that's why I chose what I chose.
So I want to jump in here real quick. I'm married to a Filipino. It's my second marriage. I was married to a white girl prior, and I met, and I'm not married to an American Filipino or an American or a transplant Filipino. I'm married to a full-fledged Filipino, and as any white guy can tell you, you didn't choose to marry that Filipino. That Filipino chose you. No, I'm just playing. It's my I grew up in Southern Indiana, the area that I am now, where there were there was town of 2,400 people maybe that I grew up in. I had my elementary class was maybe like 55. We didn't have, there was just all white people, right? And maybe I'm the lucky one, I'm the chosen few, but like I never had like any predetermination against anybody of any type of race, any type of ethnicity. So when I end up in Saudi Arabia, where my wife and I met, and we linked up on we linked up. We'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get too deep into details, but like that wasn't her race, her race, her ethnicity. Like none of that really mattered to me. It was just like, who's this person, right? And I mean, I'm all the happier for it. We just celebrated our 4-year anniversary yesterday. We've been dating, from dating to marriage. We've been together 6 years now. It's just, I'm one of the fortunate few. I'm not ashamed to feel that way. That's really all I got on it.
I am from the South. That is all. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. So yeah, no, right. So I was born in Georgia, raised in South Carolina. And I would be honest, I was one of those people when I was young, because a lot of the things that happened that were pretty unsavory, my mother actually looked me in my face and she said, "Don't you bring anyone else home to me." She literally told me that. Since then, moving on, joined the army, I kind of moved outside of that area, seen different things. So then obviously my awareness expanded. So it wasn't about skin color. That's just kind of like the big deal for me. It was never about skin color. It was always about just, connection, so forth and so on. But I gotta admit, when it comes down to it, when you look at my ex-wife, she just, she was from my neighborhood. She grew up the exact same place that I came from. Um, so that's just kind of like, you know, a cultural thing, not that it was intentional, like you go out there and go through some type of selection criteria. It's just kind of like those people that you connect and you bond with, so forth and so on. But again, whoever a person choose connect with, I think that's whatever works for them. And then they go through their own selection criteria. But I think this is all just a matter of preference.
Hey, shout out to the Real Bravado Network. Hey, man, I really appreciate you sending that $10 in. This is the first $10 that's ever been on this show.
Hell yeah.
This
He
joke
deserves
out.
a t-shirt.
I
He
appreciate
deserves
it, bro.
a
Real
t-shirt.
talk. Hey, the
Where's
Real
my
Bravado
t-shirt?
Network. Go over there. I'll drop the link in the in the chat here in a few minutes. Hey, brother, I appreciate you stopping by. He's a YouTube content creator too, so feel free, if you're watching, go over there and check out his platform as well.
The Real Bravado Network. Okay.
Who's next?
I'll go next.
Let's go, Antoine.
Obviously, I really don't care about nationality. I wasn't raised with all that nationality stuff and race, and my father didn't care about that. He cared more about how they conduct themselves, how they speak, how they carry themselves, their background, how close they are with their family. Do they have a family? He was more into where they came from, like who they are as a person. He didn't really care about nationality. He just wanted to make sure that we didn't spoil his name with crap. He didn't want any of that in the house. So I was raised more like that. But he didn't care about nationality and who you brought home and all that stuff. It was more of how you conduct yourself in front of him, because he had a very strict hand in that, and you couldn't bring riffraff home. Yeah. That's all I'll say on that.
See, I've never had that type of conversation, like what Coach said, where an elder in the family says, "Don't bring that home," because my family is full of interracial marriages. So I'm not privy to that. Like, I never had that. I guess my family is like, you love who you love. You the one that got to deal with them, not me.
The lucky ones.
So
I would
I've
say
always been open-minded when it comes to stuff like that.
And so you should be.
I'm a lot like Coach with a similar experience, but what I do realize is that geography plays a huge role in what people choose. Like I lived in El Paso for a little while, Arizona, things, neighborhoods and communities that like are some are diverse and some are not, and we have different pictures on what diversity is. And I think my most diverse experience was obviously working in Afghanistan for 4 years. Seeing people that weren't white, black, American, of different nationalities interact with each other in whatever specific environment. And you got to start having some logical understanding about why people choose what they choose, whether it be trauma, and most of it is really just proximity. You know what I'm saying? So like if you're if you're raised in a place where it's mostly Spanish speaking, the probability of you meeting somebody that speaks Spanish is a lot higher. You know what I'm saying? So I think proximity, what I'm saying, is a way to look at it too. I look at it like how white people that talk urban or talk black or get that same like stigma that goes with it, or people that reflect the environments they come from. You can't make them have a cultural obligation to anything if they're not, what I'm saying, raised by it. So that's an opportunity to understand how other people connect to culture. So I observation point doesn't fit anything for me, but objectively speaking, that's the time where I should be quiet, because I don't want to have an opinion on somebody's choices, personal choices, and how it, what I'm saying, impacts their household. Shoot, when you break it down, man, black people from different regions or white people from different regions don't all the time get along either. You know what I'm saying? You can beef with somebody on the opposite side of town and speak a completely different language, have a different understanding, and you can be competing for a lot of unhealthy reasons. So I believe interracial relationships are an opportunity to learn from people that aren't like you.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I'm gonna jump to go ahead, Dustin.
I was just gonna say, just to kind of springboard off of what Victor had to say, uh, the things that I have learned from my Filipino wife have just been. I've learned more in the last 4 years than I did in the previous 24 about the way countries and cultures operate, the way that people live, the way that people behave inside of the space that they're given, the way that families operate, the expectations of families and members of their families. It's I like I said, I grew up in small town Indiana, and none of this was talked about. Like none of this stuff existed. And the fact that now not only do I understand it, but I'm a willing participant and the growth and support of foreign families and things of that nature. It's like, dude, this is awesome. This is I get to be a part of this. I get to be a part of positively affecting the change in other people's lives, and folks that I've only had minimal interaction with. That this is incredible, and it's all because I had an open mind and I was ready to see something different.
Yeah. Um. So anybody that has ever been in a interracial or a relationship where you've dated outside, can you think of any challenges, or even if you've never dated outside? I think that you can observe and look outside of your window and maybe see some challenges that people face when they choose to date outside of their race or their culture. So with that being said, what do you think, if any, are some of the challenges of dating outside of your race or culture?
Let me jump right back in there real quick. English is a second language for my wife, who is, like, say, she speaks Tagalog, she speaks Arabic, she speaks some Spanish, she speaks. My wife knows a lot of different languages, and she's way smarter than me. The one thing that does not translate is sarcasm, right? So when you're in a relationship with somebody that has an English as a second language and you're an incredibly sarcastic person, prepare for you to say things that are going to offend them beyond belief, and you had no idea what you were doing or how damaging it was, the words that were about to come out of your mouth.
I think people would have a problem. I think some of the main things is religion. If they're really into all that stuff and dive in, and they have certain things that they follow, certain customs. Because if you marry Jewish, sometimes you have to convert. Do you want to convert? Circumcision plays a part. If you're Muslim, you have to be of that faith. So it all depends. Like that could be a real big, turn off. That has separated a lot of couples.
The religion thing wasn't as such a, it is, and again, I like say Saudi Arabia, Philippines, United States, moved around a little bit. If you go scripture for scripture with the Quran and the Bible, there's not a significant difference.
To you, but to the parents, they don't want to see you bring home. If you're Muslim, good luck in bringing home someone that's black.
If you're Muslim, just marry a Mormon and you're set.
Good luck with that one. Religion separates a lot.
But my wife was Catholic, and Catholic to Catholic. I grew up in a Catholic family. I hadn't practiced for years, but my wife actually got me back into the church and got me back to faith, and that was kind of a big thing for us moving forward. But I understand what you're saying, where religion can be a divergent, but usually that happens early on before relationships develop. You're not going to get to the marriage or children stage with a divergent religious belief before.
If you care. Because personally, I wouldn't. I mean, I'm the type of guy. If your parents don't like me because I'm Catholic, Christian, I really don't care. It's not like they're gonna live forever. And I'm gonna
Muslim to Catholic, you're never gonna get there if they think somebody.
Yeah, have you spent time in a Muslim country before? Antoine, have you ever spent time in a Muslim country?
No. I mean, I've read a lot about it, but I read a lot about it because I was intrigued about it in their culture and their religion. But
yeah, it's gonna go. It's gonna go.
It's not
swipe Catholic, swipe like
with Vic and I don't know anything about, and Roland, you might be able to help me out on this too. But Vic, I know you have lived in a Muslim country. You've been deployed to overseas and different things like that. So you said, why would you say it don't work? And then, is there a difference between the Muslims, or is there a difference in practicing or non-practicing Muslims? What do you think?
My personal experience is yes. Everything that you just said, because even if you just start with a broad swipe down to Sunni versus Shiite, you know what I'm saying? There's different takes on the belief system. And then even within that, you still have whatever local customs and tribe. You got tribal. It starts up here with the faith, right? And then you get down here about who's in the caste system and who marries who, because a lot of people are already betrothed. It's still pretty, traditional in what some would believe to be draconian in some cases, right? Then below that, you start getting into your economics and family history, and and what synchronizes here and there, because a lot of people have this inherent belief that all Muslims are interchangeable with each other. But I've seen where Muslims from different countries don't do well in Afghanistan. They can peek them right away and say, oh, they're from Saudi Arabia, or they're from this, from this country. Like case in point, you remember Zarqawi? Anybody remember him? He was the one that was setting off a lot of explosions in Baghdad, right? And he wanted Osama bin Laden's blessing. So Osama was from Saudi Arabia. Both of them, and Zarqawi was from Jordan. So they fought for their belief system and their Super Bowl of terrorism in Baghdad. And then at some point, Zarqawi wanted to meet bin Laden in person to get his blessing. And Zarqawi found out that Osama believes that only pure blood Arabs are real Arabs. He calls Zarqawi a dog. So all of this work that Zarqawi was doing to win the favor of, bin Laden wasn't in line with bin Laden's beliefs at the time, even at the most extreme level, And the biggest disconnect was culture. Even though Osama was blowing up a whole lot of stuff, he didn't openly with the tactics that Zarqawi was doing, but because he's from Jordan, That's probably the disconnect, because whatever the culture is in Jordan that permitted him to operate that he operated, it didn't match up with Osama's philosophy of, you know what I'm saying, wage and attacks. So on that level, even in the worst form, it's not an interchangeable thing. It is no different than somebody being from the same state, the same city, and there's a difference between you living on this side of town and living on this side of town and not having the same culture and the same customs and courtesies.
Yeah, Antoine, just
real quick, hold up, pause. I gotta stop the show. Hey, shout out again to the Real Bravado Network with this C note, bro. Real talk, real
Hey,
talk, real
follow
talk. I
suit.
really appreciate that.
That man
He
deserves
said, fellas, I can do better than that dime. I support the women strong, so I need to support the brothers strong too. I gotta run. I'm streaming in about an hour. Hey man, when I get off, I'll make sure that I'll be over there to check you out too again tonight. He got some good
I'll go over there
content.
with you.
Again, already dropped the link to his show. So after this, that's where I'm going after this. Go and support him over there on his platform. That's what we do. Like you already said, everybody on here that has a platform or something like that, their description, their information at the bottom. Y'all know I'm over there on every Friday night. I'm over there on Empowering Perspectives podcast. You see Chris over there, rolling over there. Vic bought to start back up Cold Talk. You already know I'll be over there sometimes. Which Khaled already said he's invited over there too. And I think Vic's been on the Real Bravado Network, I think, as well too. Yeah, so he's been over there too. So that's one of the things that this channel and platform is about too, is working together as a community, as a wolf pack, to build each other up so we all can become stronger and grow together. You know, it ain't no crabs in a barrel over here. We ain't about that stuff. We about the wolf pack mentality and about supporting each other so we continue to grow and flourish and get our message out to everybody else who wants it or needs it or who can benefit from it. So with that being said, Dustin, the floor is back yours.
Antoine, not to discount anything that you said, what I would say on the Muslim to Catholic or Muslim to Christian thing is, if for you have secular group and non-secular group, having hung out with a bunch of them in Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Oman and places like that, Qatar, Kuwait, they're secular or they're non-secular. If they're secular, it's an open conversation and they may move forward with a relationship. If it's non-secular, it's a non-starter. So if there's somebody in their family that matters, where their opinion matters, it's never going to get off the ground.
I'm just talking general. I'm not talking anecdotal or experience. I'm talking in general.
Is that true across? Is that true across every case? Maybe, maybe not. But again,
no one can say every. You don't know
what I've seen in my 37, 38 years with religion is, if it matters, it's never getting off the ground.
If you care.
If it matters.
If you
it's never getting off the ground.
If you care.
What's the difference? Antoine, what would be the difference between
if my wife or my girl doesn't care about her religion the way the father and mother do, and I'm providing,
it doesn't matter.
You ask me.
Then it doesn't matter.
Exactly. That's what I said. If you care, if she doesn't care like that.
Okay, semantics.
That's what I'm talking about.
We're going to split this one on semantics. Fantastic. Next person.
Not semantics. I'm just generally speaking. You're the one going in. I'm just saying generally. If she cares about religion, if she cares about it, that's her. She doesn't have to.
If she cares, therefore it matters.
I don't care. I don't care about religion like that. I don't believe the hoopla, and all these la dot stories. I don't. I have my own relationship. I have my own relationship. I have my own relationship with him. But you can't come in and tell me I have to. It's like this, and it's like I'm gonna look at you and go yeah, okay. I mean, okay.
So what you're saying? So what you're saying is religion doesn't matter.
No, I'm saying if you care.
So if you care or don't care,
if you follow it, if you show up at Sunday school, if you
Antoine
on Sundays and all that.
Let's save the next 15 minutes of the show of you doing ridiculousness or whatever. If you care,
wait.
Stop.
No. I didn't go there with you. Don't go there with me.
Dustin, let it go. Dustin, let it go.
Exactly.
Let it go. Let it go.
Don't be going there with
that. Let it go. Let's move on.
Let it go.
I encourage everybody to read this book right here.
Hold up, Coach.
That's why religion is like Jesus.
I wanted.
I just
Right.
want to show the book.
And what was yours, Coach?
I was just saying, if you want to have a good understanding of the struggles between merging religions, especially when it comes to the Muslim community, read this book.
Coach, I tell you what.
Oh, hold up real quick, Dustin. So, Coach, what you're saying is based off of that book. Would it be kind of fair to say that, you know, if you are two people who are practicing your religion, that's a good book. And if it doesn't matter or you don't really care, you're not really practicing your religion, it may not be as beneficial because you're not going to be going through your relationship doing those specific religious things anyway.
I would not say it's
Or not
that.
necessarily.
I wouldn't say it's that cut and dry. It's the family
Okay.
ties. When it comes down to especially Muslims, like mama and daddy really gets to say so. And if for whatever reason, and again, it all depends on where they are within that scope. But if for whatever reason that you know that child decides, or that adult, I'm gonna call my child, that man or woman decides they want to go outside of the Muslim culture or whatever the case may be, they got to come back home to mom and daddy. And mom and daddy got to say, okay, we kind of got an issue with this. Let's talk about this. So it's different. That's why I say just read the book. You know, we can talk about anything we want to talk about, and we can talk about, you know, whether we're practicing, but again, the parents are always going to get a vote.
Coach, I used to drive to work every day when I lived in Saudi Arabia. The compound they put me on was a Western compound. I was about 40 minutes away from the airfield that I worked at. But my trip would always take me through noon, right? And every radio station in the country would switch over to their daily reading of the Quran. And it took me a couple of months to realize what it was. But I thought all along that they were reading Bible scripture, because they're telling the story of Adam and Eve. They're telling the story of Moses. They're telling the story of the ark. They're telling the story. And to me, like, I'm like, you have no other option. It's not like we got XM and all this stuff in these company vehicles. You got basic broadcast radio in these cheap vehicles that they decide that we get to drive back and forth to work.
Mm-hmm.
But it took the longest time for me to realize. And again, that's an indictment of myself. But I thought for sure they were reading the Bible. Never once did it occur to me that I was in Saudi Arabia. And but that's the whole thing. They're not ignorant to the fact of religion and of the step-by-step process that every other religion or every other Christian religion may cling to. There's just this one minute deviation, but you are 1000% correct in the fact that is where do you land on that minute deviation, right? What is your opinion of that minute deviation? And that's very important because they care, therefore it matters to them.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna turn it over to somebody else real quick, but they're taught at a young age not just the Quran, right? Not just the Hadith, but they're also taught how to defend it against Christian commentary as well. So it goes a whole lot more in depth than just, oh, what do you relate to? What do you, so forth and so on.
They often refer to Jesus as a prophet, like everything that you hear, and they speak to Jesus in high regard as a prophet.
Right. And this is not no disrespect to anybody who's Muslim. I want to make sure I say that.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Anybody else got any thoughts on some possible challenges that can possibly come about from dating outside of your race or your culture?
I think when it comes to, we're talking religion now, which I'm not a part of religion. I religiously go to the bathroom every time I wake up in the morning. That's something you do habitually. I look at it more as culture, and we all know that, well, we should know that the top 3 religions have at a minimum the first 5 books of the scripture the same. That's why they can talk about Moses, they can talk about Adam and Eve and so forth and so on. And I can speak to this, people be like, oh, well, how you know? Because I got a master's degree in said field. That's why I can speak to it. But when we look at how people coming together, when you coming together, you're saying that we are going to be of like mind, but you already starting off with unlike minds. So whether I don't eat pork, I don't eat shellfish, I don't eat none of that stuff. So you trying to come in my house thinking you gonna cook a pork chop or something like that is going left already. I mean, I'm not eating bacon. Not eating all these things. And a lot of what we consume, whether it's in the box or whether it's in the package, has some form of pork in it, whether it's lard or the whatever the grease that they use. So it's a large jump for somebody to just say, okay, I'm gonna be in a relationship just because you make me feel good. You can make me feel good now, but at the end of the day, I'm looking at it like, man, my soul is tied to this connection. So do I really want to go into this? Because it's not just about arguing about pork or arguing about holy days or arguing about this. It's about you having the intestinal fortitude to stand up for your belief system and still respect the other person. And sometimes that gets harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Facts.
What was
Hey,
you
I'm
gonna say,
gonna go.
Chris?
I'm gonna go societal. One of the main challenges dating outside of your race is your race shaming you for it, especially us. You can't find no black woman. I hear that all the time. That in itself could turn said person away from their own reflection simply because they found somebody outside of their race that they gel with and that they love. Like, and see, this is why I said I was going to sit back and listen because I do not have a dog in this fight. I am not arrogant enough to tell somebody who they can or who they cannot love. I am not the divine creator. I was not bestowed that power. You love who you love. And to be real, everybody's mixed with everything. So we're all interracial dating. The whole conversation is silly to me. So I'm just going to sit back and I am going to listen because, like I said, I have no dog in this fight and I am not narcissistic enough to tell anybody who they can and cannot be with. That is not my place. I have no opinion about it because, like I said, my family's full of them. So to have an opinion about that would mean I have an opinion about them, and I don't. You love who you love, you mesh with who you mesh with. It is what it is. There are the ones that have to deal with them, not me. You like it, I love it. It is what it is.
I like that, man. And I like the fact that you went with being shamed for it because I have heard that. I remember a time when I was in the club and I was trying to holler at somebody, a black woman, and when we started talking, she was like, I didn't think you dated black women." And I was like, "Well, what does somebody look like that dates white women or somebody else?" And you know what I mean? And I was just like, you know what I mean? Do I look like this or do I look like that? Like what, like why? You know what I mean? So I have been shamed or called out for dating outside of my race. I've never really taken a big deal with it because I know that a lot of these people, they don't get to speak in my life. They don't get to speak truth into my life. So and I chose to date and marry and have kids with whoever I wanted to have with. You know what I mean? Regardless of how someone may think about it, that's a true thing, Chris. That is so true. You know what I mean? And I don't know how many times at 47 years old I have heard that narrative come out of women's mouth. And it's like, yes, I can, or maybe I can't. Maybe I just choose to be open and, to broaden my dating pool. Um, but like I said, and we don't have to keep harping this, but everybody over here is okay with anybody dating whoever they want to date. Like Roland said, green, purple, blue, yellow with a horn on their head. As long as they treat my sons right, we ain't got no beef. You know what I mean? And then even if they don't, that's their beef. You know what I mean? I got all boys. That's y'all men. Y'all come to me for help, support, advice, leadership, different things like that. But if you picked her, you deal with her. I'll help you, support you, but
There
But
is
go
what
ahead,
also
you
another.
Antoine. I
There
saw
is
you
also
and Mike.
another side of this. There is also another side of this too. The
Mm-hmm.
men who do date outside of their race cannot talk about the issues that their race is having in a
Why
real
not?
way. You can't
why?
even. You don't even like black women. So how
Why
can you
not?
talk about black people?
Oh,
You
you
understand what
talking
I'm
about in
saying?
general? What the other
I'm
people say?
talking
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
talking I'm talking societal. I'm speaking in general from what I see and the conversations that I have had. There are a lot of men that look like us that marry outside of our race, but see what is wrong with what is going on in our culture. And when we speak on it, you couldn't even find a black woman to love. So your opinion don't count. That's another challenge about dating outside of your race. It's the silliest, dumbest thing I have ever seen aside from single mothers being praised. I cannot stand it. It is stupid. Who are you to tell anybody who they can and cannot love simply because their cultures are different and they don't have the same amount of melanin in their skin as you do? You have no right. You understand what I'm saying? That would be the two that I can think of off of the top of my head. Now I'm gonna shut up.
But I'm just saying in general, as a young man coming up, wouldn't you want to sample the goods of every, like, if you have a chance? You want to see, you want to play the field, you want to have fun. You don't always want to taste vanilla ice cream. You don't always want to taste chocolate ice cream. You guys are forgetting that men are allowed to experiment, allowed to have preferences. You tried an Asian, you know what? Let me try a little bit of dim sum. You have fun with it. You have fun with it.
And
You
just
guys
get
are
a
acting
little
like
bit.
you're acting like you have to commit the minute you're young. You're young. You're getting your rocks off. You can't tell a person who they have to stick with. They're not getting married. When it comes to marriage, it's another topic. It's what you prefer and who you fall in love with. You don't know and you can't predict. You're not marrying. People would say you're marrying your family. I'm saying no, I'm marrying you. If your family choose to accept me or choose to be ignorant because of my color or my skin color, I got more rejected from the dark-skinned black women like Vic than anything else. I got rejected because I was too light-skinned. And with this hair, my colorism is different from all that shit. My father knew that. So he was like, son, don't play into their ignorance. Do what you want to do. Date who you want to date. Go about your business. Do you really care what that other person is saying about you? Have fun. Live it up. Shit, I wish I had variety growing up like you have today. I wish I had that. Man, I would have been like, whoo, I don't know where I would have ended up. But you don't know where life's gonna bring you. If
You
you're in
join the
I
military,
like
Antoine.
to support.
right,
I like to support Antoine's
please, man.
comment a little bit differently from a different angle. Number one, it's statistically insignificant who marries who outside of their race when it comes down to black people. And here's why. Black women only marry outside of our race at a rate of 4%. Black men only marry outside of our race at a 7% rate. Black men and women on average marry each other 85% of the time. Okay. So it's statistically insignificant. You know what I'm saying? Who marries outside of the race. So the weight of the conversation is cool, you know what I'm saying, for bringing it up for situational awareness. But for everybody that's paying attention, you can go verify everything I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, on the CDC. We statistically marry each other at an 85% rate or better. Okay. From both black men to black women and from black women to black men. Black women, again, only marry outside of their race at 4%. And that's consistent. And you can go look that up on the CDC. And black men only marry out of their race at a rate of 7%. So a lot of people base interracial dating off what they see on in the media, and they generally don't understand that people marry off of proximity. So the folks that marry outside of the race, you have to look at where they located at. Because I'll tell you like this, having lived overseas for a while, you ain't gonna get no men that are, European descent that are interested in the thick chicks from Atlanta. They just not. You know what I'm saying? They're not checking for Western women in general. You know what I'm saying? Outside of, you know what I'm saying, regular routine interactions. Sometimes, yeah, you get some some situations where people, like sync up and, the right people meet the right people. But in America, it's statistically insignificant for us to care about the single digit percentage of both men and women who marry outside of their race when it comes down to black people.
Well, that's the show, folks. Psych. What you got, Roland?
Let me get a mic drop. Clip that.
I don't think we can make anybody's experience insignificant or ignorant or dumb or anything like that. I think we can say what our preferences are, because how I see things to you may be ignorant, to somebody else may be smart, but when it comes down to it, we all have to, whether not you, Siri, we have to have, whether you're white, black, or whatever, you have to have some sort of something within you has to say, man, I appreciate who I am at the core, at the root. And now, whether or not I date outside of that, that's on somebody else. But for me, so when I'm looking at somebody, if I can't tell somebody, like Chris was saying, if you married a white woman, I can't say, well, oh, you don't care about black people. Can't say that. He just chose to marry. He still has black concerns or whatnot. Now, for me, my preference is my preference. But I don't think I would ever denigrate or degrade someone simply because of their choice. It's their choices, and what they do in their house is their business.
I'd like to bring up something completely off the topic and bring a little levity to this whole conversation, because we got real heavy, and heavy is not necessarily good. Cuisine, guys. When you marry somebody from another culture, and I know every single one of you here is guilty of it. Every single one of you's got a significant other. Like, what do you want for dinner? I don't know, babe. Whatever you want to fix. Whatever sounds good to you. Until you marry somebody from your other culture, or from another culture, you don't realize how dangerous that statement actually is, and the things that you're going to come home to for dinner, right? Like, early on, I'm like, hey, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. Just anything. I'm fine. I don't even know that I'm hungry. Whatever. I'll just eat whatever's there. I come home and there's bok choy and lumpia, tilapia, all kinds of random fish, all kinds of fish with
Yeah,
bones
where's
in
my
it.
invite?
Random recipes for pork that I never imagined could have been possible. Like, how do you combine tomato paste and pork and onion in the same? I don't get this. Like, so that was the one thing that, and again, it's in the simplest terms, and it is just in the interest and levity. But like, say, just be careful what it is that you say when you marry somebody from outside your culture when it comes to dinner. If you're thinking you're going to get steak or chicken or a cheeseburger or something like that, be very specific in the thing that it is that you want for dinner. And I will say that 1000%.
Hey, I'm gonna go back to a comment that Charlotte Jordan, I call her, that Charlotte Jordan put up there. She said, in my day, now my mom is in her 60s. All right. I'll just say that. I don't know if she want me telling her real age. But my mom is in her 60s. In my day, you wouldn't dare date someone outside of your race. I remember a boy in my neighborhood who was light skinned, and me being dark skinned, she didn't want us to date. She went back and said that her was her mom. So the little boy's mom didn't want them to date because my mom was dark skinned and the little boy was light skinned. Go ahead, Coach. Roland.
See, and I think that's another part of African American history, of how, as slaves, we were treated differently because of color. So the colorism in this nation, whether you were a house Negro or a field Negro, had to do more with color. And then the whole buck breaking. See, we're going to go off into I don't think we want to go there. So that's why I'm trying to stick to the marriage thing and try to keep it light. Because when we're talking about the colorism part, that's why coming down with the family structure, why people didn't want you to date within that culture, because that culture beat them, that culture killed them, so it was that. So our grandfathers and them people, they would look like, oh no, you can't date them because those are the enemy. It wasn't
Right.
like black people and boys were the same color.
So like, why are you marrying your oppressor?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
But
what
you
I
know
was
what?
talking.
Internationally speaking, colorism is a global thing. Like Indians from India frown upon dark-skinned, true cultural Indians. You know what I'm saying? They call them the raw kafir.
But
Okay?
that's a European thing. It's not a
No, it's
world.
not
It's a
European. This is
European.
Asian. No, let me
No,
finish. Let me
because the
finish.
Europeans took over.
There's multiple countries that deal with having issues with darker skinned people. Is
I'm
Now,
saying
African.
it stems from European culture.
Victor's right though. Like the Saudis don't like the dark-skinned Saudis.
They
The
sure
Asians
don't.
don't.
Right.
The Asians don't
China,
like the
everywhere.
dark-skinned Asians. Like that's a thing everywhere.
The,
Like we
the
talked
Muslim
about that.
countries don't follow Europeans. They hate Europeans. Understand what I'm
The
saying? The
Muslim
Muslim
country come
countries,
from under Europeans.
Wahhabis, Sunnis in Saudi Arabia don't give a shit what happens in Europe.
Not that they no. I'm saying
They don't
that
get their culture from nobody else but themselves. So
when conquering
point
took
being is
over,
that dark-skinned
when-
people across the world, the culture of dark-skinned people has always been frowned upon, no matter where you are. It's Koreans that don't care about what we do, that don't follow European models. They follow dark versus light. In general, culturally speaking, dark has always been frowned upon, and the majority of the world is darker than it is lighter.
yes, and with conquering, that's where it stems from. It doesn't just stem from, oh, you dark, I'm light. It stemmed from conquering, and then who was able to stay close to certain areas. That's it.
When you say conquering, what do you mean?
I can speak to
Wars,
this one, Victor,
conquering.
real quick, if I may. So with the Muslim cultures or whatnot, you had the nomadic tribes and you had the stationary people. The stationary people were typically wealthy, right? So they got to spend a lot of time inside. The nomadic tribes spent more time outside following herds of camels and things like that. They over generation and generation and generation, they became darker, right? Just based on exposure to skin and the melanin of preventing them from, I mean, it was a defensive mechanism. And it just came down, it had nothing to do with skin color. It had everything to do with class. I stay here, therefore I am more wealthy than you, therefore I am better than you, therefore because you're a traveling cattle chaser or camel chaser, I don't like you. And this is what's been pre-programmed. And that I mean, that is cultural, yes, and has some influence from the Europeans, but a lot of that existed. I mean, you figure Saudi Arabia didn't exist before 1956, right? As a country, when they discovered oil there, then the Europeans were like, "Hey, there's oil here. Let's turn this place into a country." But prior to that, you had wealthy people and you had non-wealthy people without Western influence, and that scope and that space, it became an economic thing that was attributed to color, not a color thing that was attributed to economics.
Go ahead, Coach.
To your mother's statement, though, that's what I was talking about in the beginning about the statement that my mom kind of made with me when I was younger. Because even during that time frame, and your mom and my mom probably around a couple of years different. My mom is knocking on the door of 70 right now. But you got to realize that she witnessed some of the things that police would do, and now in the neighborhood and things like real talk. We had to be home before dark, not just because it was the right thing to do, but because they were fearful of what would actually happen to us after dark. So it's like those things that kind of contributed into her making those statements. So I understand exactly what she's talking about. And going back to the whole colorism thing within our culture, that's real. Again, I talk about that a lot. Wesley Snipes was the man.
He sure was. Put a lot of dark brothers on back in the day. Hey, it is what it is. Hey, MJ said, to not date, marry somebody because of their skin color demonstrates a deep societal insecurity. Colorism may be rampant, but why can't we afford people with the dignity, of their humanity and go from there? OG Troy Nails, appreciate you stopping by, brother. I hated being light skinned growing up. Too light for my people and too dark for white folks. Valid point right there.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. What do you mean, Antoine?
He's right. It wasn't white people telling me I ain't black. I still relate to that. It's so true, you know. And that's why it's like to this day, I don't know why people care about that, you know. And if there's nothing decent in your neighborhood to marry, goddamn, you got to seek outside, right? I mean, if there's nothing around you, nothing that's fresh, nothing that's good, you know, you got to seek outside the box, right? I mean, I just don't understand like why it's like this whole passport bro thing, like why that even is a thing. If they're not happy with the selection they have within the country, why not go out elsewhere to find what you want to find? To me, that's like, you know, I look at the passport brothers as a joke. Like, you guys are making a deal about, really? Like, if it's not within the country, why do you have to make a whole big thing about it? It's not here. You're not happy with what's here. You know, the product is not here. If the product is not here, go find it elsewhere. Besides, the product from right here, the product don't even want you anyway. So move on.
But then that may go back to Chris's talking point, is why can't you find somebody of your own race here in the States? Why you can't look harder? Why you need to go overseas? There's plenty of good women here for you to date. Why do you need to go to Colombia? Why do you need to go to the Philippines? Why do you need to go over here to date somebody?
Then go back to Vic's point. Demographically, what surrounds you isn't good. What's around you isn't good. Take it from me as a single man dating. Finding a fresh one without a mini me is not easy. They all come with baggage. And you have to go really young to find one without baggage. It's hard. And I'm a single guy dating. I'm out there, so I know. I mean, my experience is anecdotal. But the passport bros have a point. Yes, I'm just saying, why make it like a big, like why advertise it? Why does it have to be an issue about it? You're not finding what you want within here. So you shouldn't have other people shouldn't have a problem with you going elsewhere. You didn't want them anyways, so go.
Yeah, the reason why it is such a big deal, it is because men are being vocal about what they do not want. And it is turning a mirror on the women in our community. That is really what it is. Instead of just shutting up and going and finding what they want, they are going to find what they want. And then they are saying the differences. And instead of it being this is the difference between her and y'all and why I chose her, it's turned into she's better than you. That is why it is a big deal.
And that's sad. That honestly, that is so sad. Like, I just find that so sad that you feel the need to actually go find something elsewhere and have to come back and slap what's here in its face. I just find that, like, dude, that's so like, whoa. And for if that person is saying anything about me going elsewhere to find someone that's right for me to marry because I'm not seeking it here, I find that, again, pathetic and stupid. Like, you got nothing better to do. Like, nothing. And from what I hear and from what I see on social media, they don't want you anyway. So what do you want to do? You want to get married with kids sooner or later, you know? So I just
see, but we had like the past two presidents they said something about by the year 2035, there aren't gonna be, you know, white people gonna be the minority, and pretty much they said the country gonna go to hell because of that. That was implied. That was the implication. And that kind of speaks volumes when you actually break it down, because they're saying, hold up, because we are intermingling, because white people actually do intermingle, black people intermingle. So, but they realize that when the only way you make a white person is with two white people. Anybody else, whatever that breakdown is of the darker hue.
That's good. But I agree with you, actually, Roland. But you know what? Unfortunately, that's a done deal. It's over. That is over. This whole black community, it's done. If you haven't noticed, there's more mixed couples today than ever before. The commercials are even advertising mixed couples. I mean, this whole community thing is a done deal. I don't know why people are having a hard time accepting that. You're not going to find generally look around. You're not going to find two white people, two black people. It's just not happening like that anymore. I mean, I don't understand. And besides, a rose bed looks better mixed anyways. So, I mean, what's the big deal? Like, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to save? Like, what exactly are you trying to say? Your bloodline? That's been, and two white people, are you really, really white? Like, are you from England? Because they don't consider, I mean, you want to get, specifics here?
We had it. Roland or Dustin? Who's going
I
next?
don't want to touch any of anything that Antoine said at all. Hey, so 1000%, there's an entire YouTube money making thing that is dedicated specifically to the passport bros and the reaction videos. I can't believe that anybody that's on this panel didn't spend at least 5 minutes like Google searching passport bro, right? And it stems from, and again, my wife loves this stuff, so she sends it to me all the time. She is a mass consumer. It's like free drama, right? Which is good for me because then we don't have drama because she has it to watch on YouTube. But of the videos that she sends me, I look at it and I see these things. Common trends. High body counts of females in Western dating culture, right? Unrealistic expectations of females in Western dating culture, right? Every guy that we want to date has to be 6'2", has to make $500,000 a year, has to have a Bugatti, has to have all these things, right? I'm a boss, babe. I'm showing my butthole on OnlyFans. I got my own money. I don't need a man, right? And then these bros are like, hey, so for $120, I can get a passport, go to the Philippines, and meet some chick that is traditional, that wants to have a family, wants to serve one man, wants to be loyal to one man, wants to cook dinner, wants to be part of that structure and everything like that. And I mean, where are you gonna go? Like, again, I'm not speaking. I am speaking from personal experience, but I'm not speaking from a capacity where I'm going to crap on anybody here locally, right? Like, it just wasn't working for me here, and that was a specific relationship. That's not an indictment of an entire culture. That's just I happened to meet somebody that fit this narrative, or this available narrative, and so be it. But again, in an entire YouTube culture dedicated to, I mean, that like literally these videos are making people millionaires, and it's the same 6 talking points over and over and over again.
Hey, well, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. I want to get into what are some cut my fan off. What are some possible pros or some positive that can come out of dating outside of your race?
I think more black women need to date outside their race. They become
No, I
more.
didn't ask that. I said, what are
I
some
mean, in
pros
general,
of dating
because
outside of your race?
because you up your game. You know you can't bring the same shit you have within your own culture, right? You become more fit. You take care of yourself. You speak properly. You can't throw out words without at least studying the culture and knowing what's proper and what's not. You actually get educated, right? You actually get educated. You actually learn. You actually see how to conduct yourself differently. You actually see how to become something better sometimes. I'm not saying all the time. And you learn about somebody else. It kind of broadens your horizon. You get to go other places too, maybe travel to another country. More people need to do that. I find within the United States and being not from it, you guys think you know what black is from here, but you have no idea, and you've never left the country to see what black is elsewhere. But you have such a strong opinion of what black is in here. You go to Jamaica, you see a white guy, but he's black. Try telling him he's not black. I want to know how that conversation goes. I'm just saying it's more educational to expand your horizons. If you're not finding it within what you want to look for, you can hold out, which is fine, you're allowed to. But if you're not getting it, how long are you willing to wait? Like, I don't understand that.
I look at that as that whole thing as self-worth, but I think that went away from your question. Your question was talking about pros and cons, or pros rather. I personally,
All my questions been going left tonight.
right.
Must be something in the air.
I don't think I could.
I think because I mentioned it at the beginning of the show. I think that's probably why.
Yeah. Now pros, I guess because I'm not pro that, I would have to leave that to somebody else.
So here's I will say this, and I've told people this before. Probably the most loving, where I felt the most love in my entire life, 47 years old, was at my wedding which was in July of last year. I have never felt that amount of love. I don't know if because I'm 47 or whatever. But like I said, I'm married outside. My wife is Navajo, Native American, and Mexican. But for the most part, her roots is in her Native American culture, and which was weird, not weird to me, but what I heard out of one of her auntie's mouth was that this is a matriarch. So in their culture, that's how they live.
Mhm.
But what she described as being a matriarch was different than what I see or hear coming from us when we talk about matriarchs. You know what I mean? When here we talk about it as being bullying and the man is henpecked and he's weak and different things like that. But over there, it kind of looked more like it was just the role that they play. You know what I mean? It wasn't about being a boss or anything else like that. It was like they took pride in being women. They took pride in taking care of the men. They took pride in nurturing and doing the things for the men. That's what this was like. You know what I mean? And like I've experienced so many different things. Like I am so attracted to her culture. Sometimes I think more than her, just because like for me growing up, I didn't really have a culture. You know what I mean? I didn't know. So when I've always gravitated to people who are different than me because I have been so attracted to people in their different cultures because it's different than the way I grew up. So I'm very attracted to like Antoine's mindset, or not mindset, Antoine's, I didn't mean to do that, but Antoine's culture and being from Trinidad. Like I would love to have a conversation or go to Trinidad or go to Canada and see how things are there. So I've always been very intrigued by people that were different than me. And maybe that is why I kind of sort of gravitated. So, but some of the pros and just good things about dating outside of my culture is that now I get to learn a culture and they have accepted me as part of their culture. And one of the big things about me, one of the things that they said was they really, really, took they really gravitated towards me. And it was based off of one thing that I said. And that's because I said that I wanted to help, I wanted to move my wife back there. And what was so big about that or significant about that was that a lot of the men who married the women out there, the women end up moving away. You know what I mean? So my goal is to get us back or close to that so she can still be a part of her culture. Because like I said, I'm 47 and I've lived, I'm halfway done. And now I want her to be able to experience life and be part of her culture so she don't have to miss out. Cause you know what I mean? I wish that I grew up with some sort of culture like that. No disrespect to Charlotte Jordan, my mom. We just, you know what I mean? It is what it is. So what are some pros? Go ahead, Roland.
No, I was just gonna say
Oh,
on the culture thing. I think the problem with us gravitating to other people's culture is because we were taught other people's culture. We were taught our own culture from other people, so we never had one. So we always looking towards somebody else, like, man, I like that. But then when you find your own, you like, man, hold up, that's in our culture, not just this soul food that kills my people. This all these things that destructive in nature that kills us. That's not my culture. That was just imputed on us, and so now that's what we call our culture. So I think that when you find your culture and you find that you can, man, I can respect and honor my women. I can respect and honor my men. I can respect and honor one another. Then you realize, hold up, I respect other people's culture because it adds value to me. Because now I can look outside of my little box and see how they move while at the same time loving and respecting myself.
I
I
think,
like.
and
Oh, go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead, Coach. You first.
yeah. So I think in response with what Roland said, because I'm right there in line with that. I like the fact, Uncle Junior, how you express how much you love your wife's culture. But I think one of the most beautiful things about the connection that we have with other people from different cultures is that we can learn about their culture. But the pro to that as well is I get to introduce them to mine. And I think that's one of the things that I think if we don't do that, then we're missing the big picture, right? So it has to be a symbiotic relationship. Like, I am interested in your culture, and I hope you become interested in mine, so we can share and share alike. And I think that way you would develop the more well-rounded perspective, and especially as an interracial in an interracial relationship, in a, the relationship with two people who are alike, we become more deeper invested in the relationship. At my age, I'm at that age to where I'm looking to give back to the culture. I'm looking to give back and uplift and build and things of that nature. So for me to remove myself, and I'm not talking about you, I'm just talking in general. So for me to remove myself, that would become a challenge, because I am leaving the people that, like I have a grandson. So I would be leaving him. And one of the things that I talk about a lot is a lot of the things that I'm doing right now is not only just for my kids, but for my grandchildren, my grandchild and my grandchildren to come. So that's part of me giving back to the culture. So I am definitely intrigued with further my understanding of the culture that wasn't taught to me through institutionalized education and things of that nature. However, the more I learn, the more I want to share as well.
The thing that I think the benefit is, like say, obviously stepping outside of your comfort zone, learning things that maybe you didn't expect. So, background on me: I was married 10 years to a white girl, lived just. I don't know how else to say it. A Caucasian lady who grew up just a few miles down the road from me. As our relationship developed, she became very masculine, right? And not so much that she was, taking testosterone and pumping iron, but in the way that she handled me and the way that we behaved in that dichotomy of our relationship, that grew to be problematic. She thought she had to be masculine. She thought she had to be strong. I've been married to my current wife, Filipino, for almost, actually 4 years, one day today. Yesterday was our 4-year anniversary. Uh, she taught me that a woman can both be submissive and sensual and strong at the same time. That's an ability that exists out there in the stratosphere. You don't have to be all at once all the time. The other thing that I found that I've really interested in, and as far as the culture thing goes, is there's no 401k in Philippine culture. There's no diversified retirement products and things like that. The stuff that's been shoved down my throat my entire life. Like, you have to set aside this much money for your retirement. You have to do this. You have to do this. You have to save this much money. You have to invest this way. You have to look at these companies. All the stuff that I've always had forced down my throat. We turn around and we look at the Philippine cultures. You have a bunch of kids, and then your kids pay for your retirement. You take care of them while they're young. They take care of you while you're old. And I find that fascinating. Family groups do not splinter and diverge and go different directions. Family groups get bigger, and then they stay in that intertwine. And for somebody like me, where we grew up in a culture, as soon as you get old enough, you move out. As soon as you get old enough, you start your own family. As soon as you get old enough, you move away for your next job, and the family diverges. But in the Philippine culture, it doesn't matter where you go. You're always part of that nuclear family, and you always have responsibilities to that nuclear family. And that was alien to me early on. But now I'm a willing participant, because I know I'm funding that family because I'm a part of that family. We've built houses in the Philippines now. We're doing things to help grow and sustain and build our family and make it successful for future generations.
I like it. I like it. Hey, I want to give another shout out to OG Troy Nails in the chat. He over there watching, and I know this may be a little bit off topic, but we already went down there, so I wanna jump on to it. So anybody who wants to tackle this question, can y'all defend Black American culture? Is it the food, the music, the struggle? This is something I've been trying to get to. I keep hearing talk about it, but every time I talk to somebody about it, it's different. So I am interested in seeing what anybody on the panel may have to say about this particular question. And then he said that he wanted to define it.
It defined, yeah, okay.
I think when you look at defining what Black people have always done is we take negatives and spear them into positives. We shoot them into positive and say, okay, like the food, because we were given scraps, we were given trash, we were given this, we make it a positive. Same reason why majority of black people will eat sweet potato pie versus pumpkin pie, because the pumpkin pie was for the Caucasian people because it was in a better area and it wasn't a bunch of slave picking and whatnot. It was a northern thing. And so we always take these things and make them into positives. And what we did is we made it our culture. We always been a musical people. But we made those things our culture and who we are, instead of actually learning your culture and breaking it down before 1619, before you ended up here. What was your culture? What was your dynamic? What was the family structure like? How did you rear and respect your mother? How did you respect your family? Because we respect hood things. That's why we love 50 Cent, and anybody he go against, we looking at like, oh, I hate Ja Rule. You don't even know Ja Rule. But since 50 got shot, oh, we gravitate towards him. That's some of us. That's not everybody. And we like those things that are dangerous, that our struggle has pushed us through, and we make it who we are instead of actually learning who you are and becoming that beautiful person that you should know you are.
Anybody
I
else?
think I think what defines Black culture is resiliency, because even if you look at the worst of the worst, they don't represent the best of the best. And you have to look at who's winning and who's losing. You can't define success without having something to reference on, you know what I'm saying, on being able to rise above it from a mental aspect of it. So I think Black culture in America, the best parts of it are mostly about resiliency. If you had one word to capture it, because we're not boxed in by what American Black culture is defined as from person to person. Hell, it's different, you know what I'm saying, no matter where you go. Like, we live in an area down here in Central Texas where everybody's here from somewhere else. And we have similar experiences based on where we were raised. And then we have completely dissimilar, opinions and perspective based on where we were raised too. But the one thing that we all can gather around is that we made a choice to pick up and move. We didn't want to let our environments define us. Those people that choose to be defined by the environment that they live in and where they want to stay, they're the ones that are subject to being, what's the word I'm looking for? Stereotyped, getting the negative stigmas that go with it. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't like anybody that's destructive to my safety. You know what I'm saying? And I think what it boils down to is, when you define it, you can define a healthy aspect of it and you can define a negative aspect of it. If you choose to dwell in over defining the negative aspect once it's been identified, then you're not bringing the necessary attention to those that deserve the visibility from it. So I think we let the wrong people try to define our culture sometimes. And I think we let the wrong people run rampant with it. And then they have sympathizers that are less educated than the actual person that's leading the stupidity. So we just got to pick and choose. What do we want to do? You want to be more resilient? You want to capitalize on your resiliency? And I think the definition of what culture is relative to what people understand based on their zip code and where they grew up at.
Resiliency has all been stricken from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, by the way. That is not a word that anybody is supposed to use anymore.
Are you serious?
What Merriam-Webster don't get to define me. I'm sorry.
No, and that's factual. Unfortunately enough, there's strong men.
I know why that's important to say, though.
World. But ideological subversion, resiliency is not a thing that we can talk about because we need you weak. We need you pliable. We need you weak. We need you susceptible. We need you depressed. And if you're not any of those things or whatever, then you're an absolute problem.
What was you going to say, Coach? Oh, no.
Nothing. No. I like where he went with that. No, I definitely agree with that point. Absolutely.
Where were we at then? Oh yeah, we have stopped on that talking point about the show. I thought I was gonna get more people to buy into it, but it is what it is. So
I
OG
do
Troy
not feel
man,
qualified to comment on the question on the commenter's question.
I think that's a safe thing. I think that's a safe bet.
And,
I
and
like how
based,
you just jumped in and say, "Hey,
hey,
by the way, resiliency." Let me say that. You know what I'm
and
saying?
based upon how spread out we are, me either.
Hey,
Yeah.
that folks, hey, that right there is proof that people know how to read the room. You know what I'm saying? And they figure out what makes sense, and they just observe. And right now, Dustin's having an objective view of multiple men with different experiences that he gets to take in the information from, and and learn from. You know what I'm saying? Different perspectives. But I say black people are not a monolith. We're not a monolithic people. We don't all follow the same things. You know what I'm saying? We speak different no matter where we live, So this is why, like, when I told Antoine 2 years ago that we two different kind of black, it wasn't an insult. You know what I'm saying? You see this wide panel up here of people like us that come from different regions of the United States. So you're getting the firsthand experience on what it's like to see men that grew up in this part of America, you know what I'm saying, or this region or whatever. But we get to learn from each other. That's the most important part. That's the part about the resiliency piece that's most important. That's why when we get up here, we don't talk about negative stuff and hang on to it. We use it as a reference point, and then we graduate out of it on a positive end. That's what black culture truly is.
I think
Appreciate that, Dustin.
as far as black culture, I think that you need to travel to a country that's predominantly black and see how it is. I don't think you should read the history book of America. It's not exactly the greatest. Get out of that victimhood mentality, travel elsewhere and see what culture is. Black culture, from St. Kitts to Jamaica to Trinidad, St. Lucia. Go and see what it's about. Don't read the history book. Don't read the history books here and get into that square box of I'm the victim and all that.
But they I'm not gonna call them victims down there, but those people in those areas too, they don't run things. Those British islands, U.S. islands, they have ownership of European people. So you
colonialism
detached from. People need to get out of the box here. They need to get out of the box here. And it's more than what's in your history book.
You from Canada, right?
Experience. No, I'm from Trinidad actually, and and I could say I'm from Baltimore because I was raised there too, and I could say I'm from Canada. I was raised there too. I think people need to travel to where it is.
There.
People need to.
I definitely agree with travel.
Reading the history books here. Get out of your victimhood mentality. Travel. Go live it. Go see it. Go see the real food. I don't believe in that pumpkin and whatever crap you said about.
It's somebody's reality, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that's within here, but that's not black culture. That's within here.
No. We talking here. We not in.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying, if I'm going to define black culture, black culture to this gentleman here, I ain't going by what's here because I'm not going to go by.
If I want to know what it's like in Indiana.
He said American black culture, so I wasn't going to define.
We got a lot of corn up here. A lot of corn.
I wasn't going to
It's
define.
everywhere. It's everywhere. It's abundant.
I was not going to.
It's on the road.
That's all I'm saying. I wouldn't define it here.
I will agree with Antoine.
Junior, you're muted, buddy.
Mentality.
Go ahead, Roland. Would you like to say something? Okay.
No, I said I agree with Antoine about the victimhood mentality. I think it's goofy. We need to quit being victims and start moving. But I'll just go ahead and I'll shut up after that.
Well, I like that. So here's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to go around the horn and we are going to finish up the show with all of our final thoughts. Okay. Let me find Antoine's. Let me click on it because he's going to start us off. And we'll go all the way around the horn. We're going to end up with Coach. So see y'all in a few. Come on, Antoine. Start us off right.
I think if there's anything I'm going to say from my final thought is that, if you're criticizing somebody for who they date, if you're trying to limit that person to date within their culture, you're racist yourself because you can't control a person like that. People are allowed to have preferences. I have a lot of preferences that I'm going to keep. You may have a lot of preferences that you're going to keep. But somebody dating outside their race and what they do for their own choices has nothing to do with the culture, has nothing to do with the race. Mind your business. Go about your business, right? Let your own outcomes decide one's fate. But you can't label somebody because they date a white person or they date a Filipino person or they don't want to date a black person. They don't like it. They're allowed to. And it's okay. They just don't like you. But it's all right to date outside your and have no opinion about it. None. You shouldn't have any opinion. It's none of your business. That person found who they want to find. They love who they want to love based on that. People always say, well, you marry the family. No, I'm marrying you. And if your family has an issue with me just because of my color, but they don't know me as a person, that's on them. My job is not to change them. And neither is your job. You're marrying the person. That's all I'm going to say on that.
We lost Unc.
Okay, we back. All right. My final thought is the same as my first thought. None of us have the power to tell anyone who they can and cannot be with simply because of the color of their skin or the culture that they live in. Love who you love, and everybody is mixed with everything. So this whole interracial dating is just dumb to me. We are the biggest melting pot in the world. Let people love who they love. It is not your business. It is not your concern. And to keep it real, it's really arrogant of you to think that your opinion should matter about a situation that A, you didn't create, and two, you are not in. Let people live and let live, man. That's my final thought.
I think this is a broader topic because it goes into various things. But I think when whoever you choose to marry, date, or whatever, it's on you, the individual. As long as you respect other people's culture, other people's the way they were raised and grew up, and value your own, you shouldn't have a problem. Because when you value yourself, it speaks volumes. Because now you can teach the other cultures how you are and how you move versus you just gravitating towards someone else and trying to understand them and not necessarily coming to grips with who you are. That's all I got to say.
All right. So I think date and marry who you want. Just don't let who you date or marry make you think you're better than other people. Okay. I think in that is a level of responsibility. It doesn't have anything to do with culture or anything. It has more to do with just being a respectful human being. As long as you don't talk down on the people from which you come from based on who you chose to spend your life with or date or spend your time with, I think that's the main thing. It's not being disrespectful to those that support you, that dignify who you are as a person. Date and marry who you want. Just don't let who you marry and date make you think you're better than other people. That's my point.
Anybody see the new Star Trek movie with Chris Pine in it? In the very first opening scene, he's fooling around with some green chick. Hello, fellow space travelers. If you think you're in America, I'd like you to zoom out and you'll realize that you're on an organic spacecraft that is spinning at about 1,000 miles an hour while orbiting the sun at about 15,000 miles an hour in a solar system that is moving 50,000 miles an hour through the galaxy, which is moving at like 500,000 miles through the universe. And all of that being said, we're down here arguing over color of pigmentation, and that seems highly absurd to me. So marry who you want, be who you want. You're all going to die anyway. Have a great day.
How am I supposed to follow that? Anyway, um, marrying, dating outside of your race or culture. If that's something that you choose to do, then that is on you. Don't let people dictate to you what you decide to do with your life at the end of the day. If you decide to date in your race, if you decide to date outside of your race or culture, there are going to be some pros and there are going to be some cons. There are going to be some good things that you're going to grow or that you're going to benefit from dating inside of your race, and there are going to be some cons of dating outside of your race. So, like at the end of the day, there are pros and cons to both. Just be understanding that just having a marriage or dating in general is hard. So when you add extra layers to it, sometimes they may get harder. At the end of the day, can both of you two work together to come to an understanding so both of you understand where you want the relationship to be? Can you guys respect each other? And at the end of the day, if all of those things can be done, choose who you want to date and marry, and screw what else anybody else has to say. I think I got it out.
Yeah, I think it was all said. I mean, just I agree. I think it doesn't really matter who a person selects to do this thing called life with. Um, I do believe that it's important that that we make sure that we understand that it's our family values, it's our core values that actually lead us along a belief system that we actually have in our selection criteria. So as long as we're believing the same thing, as long as we respect each other's differences, as long as we're open to learning about each other's culture and respect each other's respect each other's parents upbringings, things of that nature, I think it'll all pan itself out. Enjoy the ride and learn. That's it.
Hey, I agree. Hey, gentlemen, I appreciate y'all for being here tonight. You know, what I mean, everybody on the show, everybody here, all your experiences, all of your thoughts, all of your comments, everything that was said today, every single syllable, I really appreciate it. Go out, buy the code if you hadn't got it already. I think everybody on the panel has it. Maybe, maybe not. If not, I think Vic said something about he gonna send you a free copy, but I could be wrong. Just FYI, clip that. Vic, like what? Hey, look, for real though. Hey, everybody
I
who's
was
in the
about to say,
chat,
you know, Vic ain't say nothing like that.
yeah. Hey, everybody in the chat, I really appreciate you for being here tonight. Everybody who watched at home, I really appreciate you for being here tonight. I already just got a text from somebody saying that this was a really good show tonight. So it wouldn't have been possible without the gentlemen up here, without the people in the chat, and without the people supporting at home. So check us out again next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. We will be back here with another episode of Elevated Dialogue. And real quick, you know what? Let me get you show topic. You know what? Don't worry about it. Look for it on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of those different things like that. All right. Love y'all. See y'all next week. We out. Peace.